Namaskar and welcome to Midday Prime. This is the place to be for news as it develops, for updates on key developments, on news stories from India and the world. This is the place to be for a quick update on news from the worlds of business and sports as well, and also from the world of art and culture. Let's start with the bold letters then, the big news at this hour. The cabinet expansion of the union government to take place today evening. Many leaders from the BJP and ally parties have reached 7 Lok Kalyan mark. India reports over 43,000 cases in the last 24 hours. The Health Ministry cautions people against crowding in tourist places, markets, and also not following COVID protocols. Meanwhile, the vaccinations in India have crossed the 36 crore mark. India's ambassador to the United Nations, T.S. Tirumurti, addressed the World Assembly on the 7th review of Global Counter-Terrorism Strategy, and he said that terrorism in all its forms and manifestations should be condemned, and there cannot be any exception for any act of terrorism regardless of motivation behind it. The External Affairs Minister, Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar, to visit Russia for talks with his counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, and discussions to cover a range of bilateral issues, including the pandemic, also regional and global issues. The veteran actor and tragedy king Dilip Kumar passes away at the age of 98 after a long illness. President, Prime Minister, President of the film fraternity, all have expressed their grief. Italy advance to the Euro 2020 final, defeating Spain by 4-2 in a penalty shootout. England will be facing Denmark in the second semi-final today. A dream final in the Copa America. It's Argentina beating Colombia, and they're going to face Brazil in the decider on Saturday. In Wimbledon, Pliskova Kerber, Sabalenka, and world number 1 Ash Bartley. They've reached the women's semi-finals. In the men's singles, Hubert Hurkacz stunned the second seed Daniel Medvedev and will face Roger Federer in the quarterfinals today. So at the outset, zooming in on the big story, and this is among the big news. So our big story is the cabinet expansion, and it represents India in its totality. All the central ministers in a way represent India with all its diverse culture. The Modi government, here behind the scenes, there's a view now of the principles and priorities which are driving the new Council of Ministers. The Modi government seen behind the view of the principles and priorities driving the new Council of Ministers. The new Council of Ministers, which will represent the lives, hopes, and aspirations of 130 crore Indians. It brings into governance the voice of all of India, Rainbow Council, bringing out vibrancy and colors from across India's communities and regions. Across states, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, across communities. Yes, indeed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be expanding and reshuffling his cabinet and council of ministers today. This will be the first overhaul of the council of ministers since the Prime Minister retained power in 2019 general elections. The Union Council of Ministers can have a capacity of 81 members and is currently staffed with 53 ministers. This means that there is room for 28 more ministers to be added. So let's talk to Arun Sharma then, who's joining us. He covers the Prime Minister's office for us. Well, Arun, put this into context for us. You know, I mean, since 2019, this is the first cabinet expansion. And when we look, you know, democratically, a government always needs to check its resources, check its, you know, its manpower at a time when, you know, it's almost looking at halfway through this particular term. Arun, I'm not able to hear you here in the studio, but I'm hoping that you know the.
Yes, that's right, Mark. That's right, Mark. What we are learning from our sources as of now that you know that the new cabinet primarily, this cabinet expansion will primarily focus upon the fact that each and every cabinet member, you know, represents each and every part of the country. 130 crore Indians' aspirations that will be fulfilled as far as this cabinet expansion is concerned. The focus, if you look at this entire cabinet expansion, what we are learning from our sources, number one, let me tell you that the most important part, that the age of the cabinet this time around has been reduced to 58 years. Till now, the average age of this cabinet, the current cabinet, was approximately 61 years. So the focus of the government or the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is that how can the average age of this current cabinet can be reduced to 58 years. Now, if you look at, I mean, what we're learning from our sources of now, that when we talk about the young India, young minister, 14 ministers are below the age of 50 years, including 6 cabinet ministers. So this speaks a lot that yes, more and more emphasis has been given on the youngsters of our country, and that's the reason why now the current cabinet will now, that means the new cabinet that comes into force, this cabinet will be young in nature, energetic in nature, and that is why you increase the performance. Second important aspect is focus on the women aspect. Now, what we're learning from our sources that the focus is Mahilaon ki Sarkar. That's the big focus area of this new cabinet. 11 women ministers we do have. Now, across state we have 9, across communities we have 9, and 2 women cabinet ministers. That means a special emphasis to the women ministers going forward as far as this cabinet is concerned. Let me also tell you, third big takeaway as far as what we're learning from our sources, Mark, as of now, that in this new cabinet, the focus will be on, I mean, there will be 13 lawyers, 6 doctors, 5 engineers, 7 ex-civil servants primarily, 7 PhDs, 3 MBAs, and 68 with the graduate degrees. So you can understand the fact that the new cabinet that will be in place, you know, that will be more and more educated, you know, as far as with the degrees like lawyers, doctor, PhD holders, MBAs, engineers, ex-civil servants who have, you know, enough experience as far as at the bureaucracy level as well. So all these people, you know, will be part of this new, you can say the cabinet. So the special emphasis on this education part or primarily professionals part as well. Now the most important aspect, Mark, what we're learning from our sources, that focus is on when we talk about the ministers, the focus is on Dalits, Adivasis primarily, and of course the Alpsankyak, because 5 minority ministers is for the record time. 27 OBC ministers we can expect, across 15 states and from across 19 communities primarily. So special emphasis and focus on the SC, STs and OBCs primarily. So when you look at the new cabinet, this new cabinet represents each and every part of the country, each and every caste of our country, each and every geographical area of the country, and specifically the youngsters, the women are getting special emphasis as far as this new cabinet is concerned. So this is what we're learning from our sources, exclusively we're learning from our sources. There's all this can be expected when we talk about this new cabinet or cabinet expansion that takes place 6 p.m. in the evening time today, Mark.
Right, so you mentioned several key important points about how this cabinet or the Council of Ministers is going to look as it's expanded, and significantly on power of women, power of youth, or youth in the sense younger generation, not really youth as 25-year-olds, but let's say under 50 is what you said. And also importantly, with minorities, 5 minority ministers, and Dalits also, so it's a very well-rounded ministry in that context, representing the whole country, from all parts of the country and all aspirations. But when we look at the size of the ministry, because the government had plenty of room for this expansion, how many more ministers are we expected to add, expected to see in the Council of Ministers?
Well, so what we're learning from our sources that approximately 43 ministers, that means the current ministers, which are in the capacities of maybe of MOS, and the new ministers primarily are all set to take oath or primarily are going to be part of the new cabinet. That's number one. Number two, apart from youngsters, or what you're mentioning that, yes, we know this fact, that the size of this cabinet, the average age of this cabinet has been reduced. Earlier it was 61 years, now it has been reduced to 58 years. The focus and emphasis is also on the experience aspect as well. Let me bring you one more perspective for our viewers. Now, the ministers who have served all across the regions, that means Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, Northeast, because 5 ministers, from the northeastern states. So all these states, ministers from approximately 25 states and UTs are all likely to get, a space or major space as far as this new cabinet is concerned. That's number one. Number two, right from the beginning of the Modi government, the focus was on minimum government and maximum governance. Yeah. As of now, as you earlier mentioned this point, Margaret, there are close to 53 cabinet ministers, including primarily the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, approximately 50 to 53 ministers in this cabinet. Now, yes, there is scope for Prime Minister Narendra Modi to further extend it up to 81, because 15% of the sitting Lok Sabha MP, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has this power to choose them as the cabinet ministers or get space in the current cabinet. But the focus has always been on minimum government and maximum governance. Mark, we know this fact that there were various cabinet posts that were lying vacant because there were few ministers primarily who passed away, and they, various additional charges were given to various other ministers. So in that context, yes, a young cabinet primarily with an experienced cabinet as well, and the cabinet ministers primarily representing each and every part of the country, each and every caste of the country, special focus on SC, STs and OBCs primarily. This is what the new cabinet will be looking like, when officially at 6 o'clock in the evening, we'll be having this cabinet expansion ceremony going on.
Arun, stay with us. We're also joined by Vishal Barrister, who's outside the Prime Minister's residence at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. Vishal, so you have been listening to Arun. Arun has given us, the breakup of what we are likely to expect from this new cabinet expansion, the Council of Ministers. Vishal, can you hear me, Vishal? It looks like Vishal is not yet connected to us, but we'll re-establish contact with him and then we'll go back to him. But Arun continues to be with us. So Arun, you have been dwelling at length about the purpose, the focus, the direction with which the government is looking, the vision in a sense of what this cabinet expansion is going to be like. But when we look at, you did mention about the blend between youth and experience. This is actually one of the ideal type of combinations, isn't it? When we look at new ideas and also tempered with experience from the senior staff. So in that sense, you get that kind of balance, isn't it? You get the energy, the new ideas, the new let's say looking at the 21st century, India moving ahead, taking its place. So you need the kind of right people in the driver's seat, in a sense, driving these ministries. Also a lot of new ministries, isn't it? In the sense of the focus of the ministries. So put all this into context for us.
Absolutely, Mark. So we know this fact that yesterday announcement was made that there will be new ministry, the cooperation ministry primarily focuses on that aspect. But yes, again, the focus is that minimum government and maximum governance. Now, we know this fact that there will be a blend of the youngsters primarily, the ministers who are below the age of 50 years, and of course, who are having a wide variety of experience, as far as handling the administrative services or as far as handling the state. So one more perspective I have for you, Mark.
Yes.
When we talk about the experience of the states, there are close to 4 former CMs, the chief minister, 4 former chief ministers who are likely to be inducted as far as this new cabinet is concerned. 18 former ministers in the state government. That means all the ministers, these 18 ministers, who have already served in the state governments, they have, a complete experience as far as handling the state services or primarily state administration. So they have handled this state portfolio. So 18 former ministers in the state government, they'll be part of this new cabinet. And interestingly, 39 former MLAs, they are also likely to be part of this, this new cabinet. So this gives a sense that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is giving clear focus on the fact that how can experience be brought into this cabinet, number one. Number two, how can youngsters can be roped in so that performance can be increased as far as this new cabinet is concerned? Because this is the big important point that I'm mentioning right again and again, that the average size of the cabinet has now been reduced from 61 years earlier to 58 years. I mean, there are various cabinet ministers who will be below the age of 50 years. So this speaks a lot about the Modi government. So the focus is that bringing in new experience, bringing in youngsters on board as far as cabinet is concerned, and on the other side, the focus is completely on the fact that how can the experience who have served in the state government, all those who have been the former MLAs in various states, they'll be brought into this this new cabinet. So this focus is Anubhav ki Sarkar. That this focus is also on the experience aspect. How can experience be brought in? And as I mentioned earlier, the focus is also on that. The perspective is that, Mark, that no person in this country should feel left out. That means the representative of each and every community, each and every caste primarily have got this opportunity to be part of this new cabinet, be it the OBCs and all across. I mean, if you look at the OBC caste, there are various subsets as far as OBC is concerned. So OBCs, SCs, STs, other communities primarily. So the representatives of all these castes also is also part of this cabinet. So it means it is the OBC ki sarkar, पिछड़ों की सरकार, आदिवासियों की सरकार. So that is the mantra, that सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास. Youngsters and experience balanced, and of course representation from each and every caste and community and each and every part of the corner of the country, so that primarily the actual mantra of sabka saath, sabka vikas and sabka vishwas can be realized. So in that context, the new shape, this will be a rainbow cabinet primarily. You can say that by each and every color will be highlighted of this country when we talk about the new cabinet. Mark?
Indeed, it's a re-emphasis of sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka vishwas, clearly, and we can see the focus also on states because that's the spirit of federalism. People who were MLAs at one point of time, so they looked only at a sort of a regional context. They didn't think of themselves, in the union government. But now, those people have come to the center and will be in charge of ministries, of central ministries. So that's a significant step. We can see that, there's a clear focus that people are looking at all kinds of interests, and also, in terms of not only experience, but also bringing to the table knowledge, background, that kind of, let's say not experience, but in terms of your educational qualifications. There are a number of people who are PhDs who are also in the ministry, isn't it?
Absolutely, Mark. Now let me recall, just for viewers who have just joined in, that we have got these exclusive details from our sources, very highly placed sources, as far as this entire rainbow-like structure of this cabinet, or as far as what will be the shape of the cabinet.
Yes.
You talked about the professionals. Yes, when we talk about the professionals, our sources are clearly mentioning this point. 13 lawyers, 6 doctors, 5 engineers, 7 ex-civil servants primarily, 7 PhDs, 3 MBAs, and 68 of these ministers, primarily they'll be holding, they'll be having graduate degrees. And we should not forget this fact that we have always seen a surprise element whenever cabinet expansion takes place in the Modi government. Last time we saw that S. Jaishankar was one surprise element. When he became the external affairs minister, at that time also he was a foreign service officer, and afterward he was just elevated to the rank of cabinet. So this also gives a message that anybody who performs gets a chance in cabinet expansion. So in that context, yes, the professionals who are being given an opportunity as far as this new cabinet is concerned, they all are either MBAs, lawyers, doctors, engineers, graduate and above. So this gives a sense that this is an educated cabinet, primarily experienced cabinet. A very well understanding cabinet, because the ex-civil servant, they have an understanding of bureaucracy, that how things work. There are MBAs, they know how the financial things work. There are engineers, primarily MBAs into the system, and of course the doctors and the lawyers as well, who understands the nitty-gritty of the entire system. They are being promoted and being elevated as far as this cabinet expansion is concerned. So yes, just to recall once again, the focus is on women ministers primarily. The focus is on each and every section of the society. That means OBCs, Adivasis, SCs, STs, so all the major communities of our country, they'll be having a representation as far as this new cabinet is concerned. And yes, last but not the least, apart from youngsters and experienced, a blend of experienced and youngsters, we will always, witnessing the fact that the PhDs, the doctors, the lawyers, the MBAs, the ex-civil servants will also be part of this new cabinet. We can also expect some surprise element as far as this new cabinet is concerned. But as of now, this is a kind of shape and the color of this new cabinet that represents primarily each and every section, each and every community, each and every caste of our society. So that's the reason we are calling it at Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas. That means representation from each and every community and of course the class and section and society into the cabinet also ensures that no one's voice is now unheard. Everybody's voice is now heard at the highest of the level.
Absolutely. Let's go across to Vishal Barrister, who's standing by outside the Prime Minister's residence at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. So Vishal, a number of people have been coming in and out, and they are obviously potential ministers. But let's not speculate on who they are. Let's look at the overall context of what Arun has been talking about. The messaging that is coming out. This is a well thought out process. This cabinet expansion, the new council of ministers, and put into context, what the surprise element is going to be like. Because Arun has said, there's likely to be a surprise element as well.
Very good afternoon to you, Mark. Yes, Arun has actually said that the surprise element is going to be there, but there's an old saying that when the going gets tough, the tough gets good. Yes. The country is going through a difficult phase, and we have seen how pandemic has affected our economy. And so the message has to be sent loud and clear, because next year we are having election in the crucial state of Uttar Pradesh, and also thereafter the election at the center. So the Prime Minister wants to give a message loud and clear that the weaker section will be taken care of, but at the same time, all the experts who are experts of the fields, the technocrats, the PhD holders, the bureaucrats, they would be inducted into the ministry so that a community-based development is possible with the responsibility under the responsibility of the experts. And that is what the Prime Minister wants to tell the nation, that he is there to deliver, and his government is all for the weaker section, which includes SC, ST, OBC, and also the women. So it is very much clear that the surprise element are going to be there. Remember, it's not only an expansion, it's going to be a major rejig. This is what we are anticipating at 6 o'clock. Some of the ministers, they have already resigned. You heard Nishank resigning, citing his reasons. Then Santosh Gangwar also putting in his papers. So the message is loud and clear that everybody will be inducted, all sections of the society, all sections, all the states will have representation, but at the same time, only those who can deliver, and there have to be masters in the field. This is the message the Prime Minister wants to go to the nation, because India, that was on the threshold of a major economic boost, has had a speed breaker in the form of a pandemic. We have had to 2 waves, and that is why the Prime Minister wants to have a team. And as we go by what the sources tell us, that this is going to be the youngest ministry. So far, there are 81 that can be inducted in the ministry. There are 50 odd ministers there. So major reshuffle, major rejig is what we are looking at. Mark?
Indeed, Vishal, you mentioned a crucial point which we haven't yet discussed, and this is important because this expansion, reshuffle is taking place, because it's coming after COVID. The entire world has suffered from COVID, and this has set back a lot of the economy. It needs to have the right kind of people in place to restart the economy, the country. The Prime Minister had set tall targets for the country, a $5 trillion economy by a certain number of years, housing for all, doubling farmers' income. All these things have been set back just a little bit because of the pandemic. But with the right people in the right place, we can get back right on track. What do you have to say?
Well, absolutely not, because when we saw how a person like Dhoni was introduced as the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, the message was loud and clear: young man has to be introduced with more aggression, but at the same time, he has to have the knowledge of the state, because Dhoni was from the Vijayati Parishad. He was there playing an important part in the organization for the party, and that is what the Prime Minister here wants to convey. Of course, the allies have to be taken care of, and that is why we've seen how people like Dr. Aditya Sindhya, he has already commented on all those who have had to give away their positions because of what the party wants and what the organization wants, will also be inducted. People like Savanand Sunwal would also be inducted into the ministry.
Yes.
And has already met the Prime Minister, as what the media report suggests. So the message is that the Prime Minister what he had promised, that we have to have a $5 trillion economy. So no challenge, no problem can stop it, because we are here to deliver and we go by the word. So this is the government that wants it stop. And that is why the Prime Minister is not doing it simply for the sake of accommodating the allies, but also with a very focused attention what he has promised, he has to deliver. No pandemic, no challenges can stop him. This is the message he wants to give it to the nation, because it is a very, very crucial phase. We have had two waves of the pandemic that have jolted our economy, but we cannot sit back and relax. We have to work hard and with double energy, and that is why the professionals, the surprise element that Arun was talking about would be there. At the same time, allies will be taken care of, and an equal representation, because 81 is the limit, and the Prime Minister can make use of all the possible opportunities available. Now,
Indeed. Let's turn back to Arun then. We are staying with this story. I'm told we are going to be staying with this story throughout this particular bulletin, and even after that, because this is the main story of the day. So let's come back to Arun. Arun, you had exclusive information, for people who are joining us a little late. Perhaps you can re-emphasize the key points of that exclusive high source information that you have got from the Prime Minister's office.
That's right, Mark. Now, what we have learned from our highly praised sources, as far as, because there was speculation as to how will be the shape and size of this new cabinet. So let me tell you that our sources are clearly telling at this point that this new cabinet, the cabinet expansion that takes place today in the evening time, the new cabinet will be representing each and every section, society, caste, community of our country. That's number one. Number two, as far as aspiration of 130 crore Indians are concerned, the focus of this cabinet expansion will be on how can the aspirations of this 130 crore, Indians can be fulfilled. Third important aspect is that when we talk about the new India, the focus of this new India, the new cabinet will be on the fact that how can the target or the dream of new India can be achieved. So these are some of the big highlights as far as this new cabinet is concerned. For the viewers for just joining us right now, let me tell you over here that the big takeaway of this cabinet expansion is that what we're learning from our sources, Mark, that the average age size of this new cabinet will be reduced now, because as of now, the average age size of this new cabinet is approximately 61 years. But now when we talk about this new cabinet expansion, the average age size of this new cabinet, of course, will be, average of will be 58 years, in which we can expect that young ministers, 14 ministers will be below the age of 50 years, including 6 cabinet ministers primarily. So this speaks a lot at how the focus of the government is on primarily the youngsters and the young ministers as well. So the average cabinet size now comes down. Second important aspect is about the experience aspect, and how this government is choosing the experienced player as well, the experienced ministers as well, who have served as an MLA, as the state ministers, as the state chief ministers primarily. So the focus is also on that. 46 with the experience of being ministers in the central government. So that is the key area. We are just giving a hint, and these sources are telling that 46 ministers primarily are having experience of being ministers in the central government. Second, 23 of who've been elected to the parliament for 3 or more MP terms. That means they have the current new cabinet ministers will be having experience of holding 3-term or more term in the parliament as well. So they have enough experience as far as handling the nitty-gritties of the administrative aspect as well, and various other aspect as well. Now we noticed that 4 former chief ministers will be inducted as far as the new cabinet is concerned. 18 former ministers in the state governments, and 39 MLAs or former MLAs primarily will be part of this new cabinet, who have experience to handle the state legislative and who have done the state legislative exercise, and who are part of the state governments primarily. So this experienced cabinet, or primarily this experienced members, will be part of this cabinet. That's the big takeaway: a blend of youngsters and of course the experienced part. Yes, ma'am.
Let's toss over then once again to Vishal. Vishal, so you've been listening to Arun, and we can see that this is a well thought out process. The Prime Minister has, applied a number of let's say criteria, in a sense, to find the right people for the right job. Experience is one of them. Youth is also another one of them. But those youth that are coming in are youth that will have enough experience as well, in administration as well as in delivering new ideas. Arun was telling us, that many of the ministers will now have had at least 3 terms in Parliament. Several of them have had plenty of time in the states. They have been MLAs in the states. They have actually, a lot of experience with the state administration. So, it's not like the center versus state. It is a proper federal structure. You're coming in with that cooperative federalism attitude when you come into the central government itself. How do you view this? You've been covering politics for many, many years. So you look, at the nature of a blend, in a ministry, because after all, this is the executive. This is what the government is going to be like. We elect members of parliament, and the majority within that forms the government, and within that, that is the executive. They deliver, they basically find the policy on which the government follows, and then they take it back to parliament. So, looking at this is a very crucial aspect of government, the executive. How do you see this blend playing out over the next few years?
Well, Mark, was a very interesting point made by you, because the democracy is an important pillar of democracy, and let us not forget that when we talk about, when we are saying that it is going to be the youngest cabinet, then it is not that they are freshers, they are experts of their fields, bureaucrats, doctors, engineers. So when we are saying that it is going to be a young ministry, then definitely not a rookie. They are experts of the field, so they have experience of politics, they have experience of leadership, and the Prime Minister needed there because, as I said, that it is a very, very difficult time. But nobody knows that how and when the pandemic would go away, because we have had 2 difficult waves, and now we are talking about a Delta variant as well. The vaccination process is on, the drive is definitely serving the purpose, but at the same time we need the people at the center, at the helm of affairs, to connect with the people, to deliver, and at the same time make the people understand that the government is there 24/7, and it is there to serve the people, to look into their issues, to resolve the matters, to resolve their problems. And that is what the Prime Minister wanted. It is not that overnight he has decided that he is going to have a lateral entry, or he is going to have professionals. But it has been the nature of the Modi government ever since they arrived on the scene, they are focused and very much keen on picking up people. It is like cherry picking up the best of the lot so that the government delivers. And when you have the best of the lot, then definitely it will matter to the public at large. And this is what this reshuffle, I would say, because earlier it was being said that expansion, that it is going to be a major regime, and that is why all the fresh things, all the best things are being inducted because we have a tough task at hand. And the Prime Minister is a very hard taskmaster, and he wants his people to deliver, and that is what he is known for, because he has always said that I am a Pradhan Sevak, I am the servant of the people, and that is why he needs a team who can deliver, who can serve the people, and at the same time deliver with sincerity, with all knowledge. Mark?
Indeed, so you talk about the important point of service to the people. At the end of the day, it is democracy is all about the people. And at a time like this, when we have had we are reeling to as large extent because of COVID. Not that reeling in the bad sense of the word. It's an act of nature. It's something that is beyond the control of authorities, but the authorities have done the best, and the government has stood up to the task. And this is the important thing, because now people look at the government, especially at a time like this. It's when other institutions are not able to function because a pandemic has sort of had a debilitating effect on the economy. So the government has to come up with the goods, in a sense, to deliver, and the people are vesting their interests much more in the government at this point of time. So in this context, you've mentioned the word service. That's the key message that must be going out from this kind of cabinet expansion, as well as a new induction into the Council of Ministers. Vishal, carry on with that thought.
Well, absolutely, Mark, because as you rightly said that this is pandemic, nobody has a control on it, but definitely we have to resolve the issue. We cannot sit back, and we have to take care of the situation, because we need to take care of the pandemic and also the economy that has been worst hit, and that is why we need fresh a pair of legs, as we say, who can do all the running, and also fresh mind who can plan for the future, because it is all about planning and all about deliverance. So if you have fresh pair of legs, then you can deliver. If you have experts, then definitely you have best of brains, and that is why the Prime Minister is very keen on delivering and delivering the best, because he knows that people have a lot of expectations from him. People have a lot of expectations because they know that this is a man, there is a man at the hand of affairs in Prime Minister Narendra Modi who can deliver. And when you have a man from whom the expectations are sky high, then definitely we need our team to deliver, and that is what we are going to see, witness. It is going to be a historic witness, Mark, a historic moment, Mark, because let me tell you that this kind of regime would be the first of its kind, where you have the best of the lot in the ministry and brought in with a purpose, and that is to improve the economy, to deliver, and also to deal with the situation in the way of pandemic. And the Prime Minister wants his people, his ministers, to be a person who can deliver. Simply speaking, will not do simply narrative speeches, nothing would do. He wants action on the field, and he wants the last man in the field to be benefited. Mark?
Right, Vishal. Let's go back to Arun for a moment. Arun, so, when we look at the way the world is evolving, in a sense, because of COVID, there is, the pre-COVID days, and there's going to be the post-COVID era. So, this is a once in a lifetime kind of a situation with regard to COVID. It's an inflection point in history. And at that point, you need the right kind of people, because the post-COVID world is going to bring in totally different rules of the game, in a sense, both across, the way the economy is going to function, the way international affairs is going to function. There are new systems in place, in a sense, and we all have to get used to it. And this is, in a sense, the first. It's a new team that is going to be in charge, with the Prime Minister at the helm. Taking us through perhaps the post-COVID era, looking ahead. How would you look at that?
Well, so the challenges for the new cabinet, of course, will be very much, it will be very much challenging primarily for this new cabinet as well in this post-COVID world, because performance is the only criteria in the Modi government. That's what we have seen. The performance, the ministers who perform gets elevated, and we have seen this also, that the minister who performed primarily, gets elevated for the same. But yes, interestingly, in this post-COVID world, or in this new decade that starts from 2021 till 2030, there will be, challenging times as well. So how this new cabinet, can find answers to the challenges that we are facing as of now, number one. Number two, primarily, the aspirations of people of India and the new India that we are talking about as of now.
Yes.
Because when we talk about the aspirations of India, the 130 crore Indians primarily, and that's the reason when we look at the shape and the color of this new cabinet, when we talk about this new cabinet expansion, the Modi government primarily, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has focused upon the fact that how can voices from each and every society, community, caste, region, the geographical area, from northeastern part of the country to the west, to the south, to the northernmost part, each and every primarily, representation has been made to the cabinet. So now it is the idea that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. Because during the COVID pandemic time, we have seen that how this entire ministries or the cabinet primarily, they have worked together as a team India. There was a state and the center collaboration as far as fighting against COVID-19 is concerned.
Yes.
If you look at it this way, Mark, there is another perspective to it.
Yes.
We are witnessing more and more MLAs, the former MLAs primarily, the ministers who have served this in the state government, the ministers who have been part of the state legislature earlier, they have been brought into the cabinet aspect, so that when we talk about the cooperative federalism, when we talk
Yes.
about center and state mechanism, how can there be better coordination as far as states and center are concerned? Because the ministers, those who have served in state legislature, those who are the former chief ministers of our country, various states of our country, those who primarily have served, as an MLA or as the state ministers or the state government ministers, they have an experience as to what are the challenges they face when they're working in state. And what needs to be addressed in this post-COVID world as well. Because now in the post-COVID world, the focus is on cooperation and collaboration. So how can we have a more collaborative approach and cooperation as far as states and center are concerned? So the ministers who have already worked in the state, the ministers who have been MLAs over here, the ministers who belong to various other communities like OBCs, SCs, STs, other communities primarily. So more emphasis has been given to all these ministers so that they come to the cabinet. They bring out the point, the focus area that these people of our country, they have been raising about, and they get chance in the cabinet. These ministers are getting chance in the cabinet, so that primarily they can do a wonderful representation of the country like India in the cabinet. And that is the complete idea, and that is the only way, the collaborative approach, the cooperative approach by which you can fight the COVID pandemic as well. So that's the reason, the much emphasis is on experienced ministers, the much emphasis on, the ministers who are either lawyers, doctors, MBAs, the financial experience they have, and of course, the ex-civil servants, the bureaucrats primarily, will also be finding some space as far as this new cabinet is concerned. So this speaks a lot about this new cabinet. The rainbow-like color, the colors of each and every region of our country will of course be represented. And of course, when we talk about this new cabinet expansion, this is the need of the hour. We are focusing upon the new ministries like cooperation ministry, that ensures that there is a better coordination as far as the cooperatives of our country is concerned, as far as ensuring ease of doing business is concerned. And of course, the idea is that how can productivity can be increased by the blend of youngsters and experienced primarily, and that is what the idea of this new cabinet, as far as cabinet expansion is concerned, completely focused upon the fact.
Indeed. So Vishal, we know a little bit about the nature of what new council of ministers is likely to represent in terms of, you know, the different kinds of interests that come from across the country. Now, the important thing is to, you know, put all those skills, the skill sets that they bring into the areas of focus, you know, which means allocating them the right kind of ministries. So the Prime Minister has reorganized his focus as well in terms of ministries by changing names of certain ministries, as we can see also, you know, which Arun was talking about, Ministry of Cooperation. Earlier it was Jal Shakti, also was renamed. The Ministry of Education has come in from Human Resources. So, you know, there is a change, an idea of you know, where we are going. So how would you look at, you know, the way that the ministries have have been revitalized in a sense?
Well, a very crucial question asked, Mark, because the Prime Minister blueprint is ready, and we have a Prime Minister, fortunately, who has everything prepared well in advance, and he does not do anything without any preparation. Long process has gone through, lot of hours have gone through in this planning. The Prime Minister is focusing on energy with a synergy, and that is why we're looking for better ideas, more expert people. And it all started out with the pandemic, because when we see that the worst, the weaker section of the society, the SC/ST, OBC are generally considered to be the weaker section of the society, the women. This is the section that needs to be taken care of, and for that we need proper representation, we need better ideas, we need fresh minds, we need fresh set of legs, and at the same time we need people who know the job. Simply sitting in the chair because you are a minister is not what the Prime Minister is looking at. He wants the person who is in total command of the situation, who is in total control of the situation, and who is always ready to improve and also ready to take and implement new ideas. He should be ready with his team, with fresh ideas, because we are in the world which is evolving every day, which is evolving every hour. And here is an economy which was the world's fastest growing economy, amongst the world's fastest growing economy. Then came the pandemic, and the Prime Minister is not going to take that sitting back. He is a man who has a clear vision, who has a mission, and that is to deliver. And that is why when we say that the weaker section, also the categories in the society will be taken care of, representation is one fine, but why we need experts, why we need better days? Because they have to be delivered. Everything that goes from Delhi will have to reach the last man in the queue. This is what the idea of the BJP ever since the Prime Minister took office way back in 2014. This is his second term. The expectations from the Prime Minister, as I informed, has been rising every day. And because of the challenges, the opposition had a chance to attack the government, but the Prime Minister is not going to let that happen again, and that is why he has given a clear message that I need a team to deliver. We need to take the challenges as an opportunity, and we have to deliver and to prove our skills and prove our mettle. And that is why we should be prepared for any kind of eventuality, because remember, it's a war, Mark, it's a war. Okay. The enemy is unseen and ever changing its form, and I'm talking about the virus. Yeah. And that is why the Prime Minister has a very clear vision that he wants fresh team, fresh ideas, person with credibility, with sincerity, and also all the skills to deliver, because the people of the country deserve from the government, and they have expectations, and he is there to prove all the expectations of the people in the very right manner. Mark?
Yes, indeed. So, Arun, you know, that's Vishal has raised some important points, and perhaps we can talk a little bit about these. You know, the world contexts have changed because of COVID, and you have the right team now in place. But the important messaging also that has to come out is the functioning of a democracy. India is the largest democracy in the world, with by far the largest number of voters, and a democracy functions in this manner, which gives you the right type of representation from across the country, and the right kind of people, and it also, the fact that once you've elected a government, maybe in 2019 you've elected the government, it doesn't remain the same. I mean, it can change. The Prime Minister has the prerogative to change, the horses for courses, in a sense, change the Council of Ministers, and that is why, you get new blood, you bring in new ideas. All this is part of the democratic exercise, and it has to happen at a time like this when there are crucial decisions to be made in the global context, because you cannot let your guard down not only for COVID, to allow a resurgence for a possible, third wave, but you don't let your guard down because even if the economy is set back a bit, you don't allow enemy states to take advantage of your situation. All this messaging has to come out through a democratic exercise like this. Arun.
Absolutely, Mark. So, when last cabinet expansion or cabinet reshuffle took place, it was in a pre-COVID era. We saw that, we know this fact that at that time, priorities were different, challenges were different, the working style was different. But in this post-COVID world, we know this fact that the challenges are different now. The opportunities in this crisis situation is different. And of course, we know this fact that in this challenging times, it is necessary that working style should also change. Now, Mark, if you look at it this way, that, as of now, we are seeing this fact that one cabinet minister is holding 2 or 3 portfolios altogether. This primarily reduces the efficiency as well of that portfolio in itself. So when we talk about the largest democracy, the representation from each and every community, caste, regions, all across the country, that should be having over here. The focus should also be on the aspect, Mark, and that's the complete focus of this government as well. That how can, apart from representation, how can efficiency be increased in this current cabinet expansion? How can the cabinet ministers be allotted the portfolio so that the efficiency also increases? As of now, you look at it this way. We know this fact that, Mark, in last couple of years, we have lost some of the ex-cabinet ministers as well.
Yes.
Now, due to which additional charges were given to some of the ministers.
Yes.
So now one minister is holding 2 to 3 portfolios. So this reduces the efficiency as well. So when there is a blend of youngsters, the experienced, and the representations from all those people who have actually worked in this COVID time as well at the state level, state legislature level, or maybe at the at the post of MLAs or various other administrative posts that they hold, they've got the experience at the working at the ground level in the country. There can be the ex-bureaucrat as well in this cabinet.
Yes.
So what is the working style of a bureaucrat when he's working in the ground situation at the ground level? What are the experiences that he's having? How can he represent his community, his caste, his region, and he can come to the cabinet and of course do some work so that the people at the ground level, the far-flung areas, the aspiration of India actually can be fulfilled. So that is the focus completely all about today.
Indeed. Vishal, let's tap you in for your political experience. This is a mandate. The Prime Minister has this mandate, and it's important to exercise the mandate. He had constraints because of the times of COVID. He was, the nation was set back a bit, and crucial decisions were taken, tough decisions were taken by the Prime Minister, which has helped us, in a sense, to bring back our country. Otherwise we were at, when the peak of the second wave was at 4 lakh cases a day. This was in the early part of May. Within a month, to reduce it to a situation where we were almost back to, a country that can function normally and unlock. So in that kind of, these kind of decisions, that is the context of a mandate. And this is, taking that mandate a little further, reposing faith in certain kinds of people who are able to come on board with you and bring our country out of whatever situation, because the world has actually been set back in a way. If I have to look at an analogy, if we're all driving in a race, the entire world, all the countries, they've been set back by a certain kind of accident. There's a situation in place where all the cars have stopped. And somebody has to take the lead now. India has a chance. This is an opportunity, a chance to actually take play a bigger role in the post-COVID world. And having the team right there and the mandate is important when we try and analyze it. Bring in your political experience into this question.
Well, absolutely. Having said that, Mark, India definitely has a chance to prove its mettle, because we have, for a very long time, we have had, after a very long time rather, this is the second time we have had a stable government at the center, the man with a clear vision, the man who knows his job, the man who is there to prove the mandate right. And this is the time, the opportunity is very, very right, Mark, because when the world is struggling with the pandemic, India can definitely prove its skills. Especially with the free vaccination drive of the Prime Minister, and we are all thankful to the free vaccines, and the vaccines have done wonders for us. Now we have more vaccines coming in. Earlier we had Covishield, Covaxin, now we have Sputnik, Pfizer, and not many vaccines allowed by the government. So the pandemic has been taken care of by the medicines, but at the same time, a lot of opportunities have also arisen, and at the same time responsibility, because as you correctly said, that India is the largest democracy. We have a stable government. When we talk about our neighbors, we have seen how there are problems in the past. For example, our neighboring country, they claim to have an elected government, but at the same time, the world knows that it is the army that is calling the shots all the time, and that is why you never know how fragile is the democracy across the borders in the neighbor, and what will happen to that. And so, having said that, it is the responsibility of a country like India, which is also the largest democracy, to deliver not only within but also deliver outside, and that is why the role and importance of India has grown many folds, and for that you need a team which has energy, a team that has understanding, a team that has skill, and at the same time a team that has a clear vision to follow the Prime Minister and his ideas, because ideas have to be generated all the time, because it is the idea that to work. It was the Prime Minister's idea to have democracy in his ministry. It was his idea to come up with a new ministry. Yesterday we see how cooperative ministry has been introduced. Now this is all being done because in this ever-changing world, which is cowed down by the pandemic, we need better ideas and we need quick lesser time to deliver. So the time of deliverance has to be reduced. The challenges are ever good, and so we have to be prepared all the time 24/7, and that is why this major region is happening. And as I said, that it is going to be a historic region. The Prime Minister has proved time and again that when he says that he is the Pradhan Sailor, it is not merely to seek applause from the people, but the people needs to know that here is a man who is there 24/7, who never goes on leave, who is not down, who is not tired, who never falls ill, and to keep himself fit, he has to do a lot of efforts, and that is why he needs people who are physically and mentally fit as well. Now this is a very, very important statement that I am making, because you cannot have people who are aging, you cannot have people who are down with health issues, because the time is very tough, and for that we need tough people to deliver. Mark?
Indeed. Obviously, in a tough time, you need the tough to come up and deliver. That's a very important statement. Let's turn back to Arun now. Arun, you have been closely following the Prime Minister's office for the last 7+ years. So in this context, how would you look at the global situation, the global positioning? Because any decision taken by India is always watched across the world. India is no longer just an emerging power. India is playing a significant role on the global stage. And a decision like this, a huge cabinet reshuffle and expansion, will send out clear global signals. Just put that into context for us from your experience, with traveling with the Prime Minister and all that.
Oh, yes, absolutely, Mark. So we know this fact that this is India, primarily the largest democracy in the world. Now the focus is that in this post-COVID world, primarily, how can we cope up with our new challenges? Even during the COVID pandemic time, we have seen that how a country like India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has made 2 made-in-India vaccines. When we were importing the PPE kits and N95 masks, right in 2020, we have started exporting close to 1 crore N95 masks, 1.25 crore PPE kits to other countries as well. During the COVID pandemic time, we have seen that how, because of the collaboration or collaborative efforts in India, as far as Team India is concerned, when we talk about Team India, that means states and centers, collaborative efforts are concerned, we were in a position to ramp up our capacities as far as our medical supplies, medical equipments are concerned, and be the other medical aids and equipments.
Yes.
Look at it this way, in cases in month of April and May, there were close to 4 lakh or 4.5 lakh new cases coming in on a daily basis.
Yes.
From that time, we have come and declined to 30,000 new cases. That means how quickly the government has taken over, and how the cases have subsequently subsided. So now the focus is that how this new cabinet delivers, as far as new challenges are concerned.
Okay.
Be it economy, be it various sectors like MSME, the financials, the various other sectors as well. How can you pump up, or how can you give a major push in these ministries or in these sectors? The leadership that will be decided by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that will decide the fate of these various sectors, the economy, and of course, India's stature on the global level as well.
Right. So thank you very much, Arun and Vishal. But we will be coming back to you as this story develops. In fact, we are just going to take a short break at this point in time. We are concluding Midday Prime, but we will continue focusing on this story throughout the day. So we will return in just a short while with more focus on this particular story, the cabinet expansion, or the expansion of the Council of Ministers, and the focus that it brings in terms of democratic values, in terms of politics, in terms of global messaging. So do stay with us. We are concluding Newsnight for the moment, but always also remember that we are still in COVID times. So get the jab done, in a sense. Get the job done, get your jab done, and also wear your mask at all times. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.